jump in this thing and see what it'll do.
Ready to rock this, bro?
Oh, hell yeah. Now, I'm guilty of it. I know a lot of you guys are too. How many of you guys, as kids, or probably even young teenagers, or maybe even still nowadays, have done this, seen it, played with the General Lee, jumping through the air, landing, and always thought, man, that would be cool to jump the General Lee. Well, my newest project, this 1969 Dodge Charger General Lee, has not seen any jumps, but the guy that owns this car has jumped and jumped and crashed and crashed and crashed and crashed a few more times, many of General Lee's. This guy's name is Raymond Kohn with Northeast Ohio Dukes. Yep, that guy right there is one crazy mofo. He jumps these cars 20, 30 feet in the air and lands them flat ground. I mean, imagine sitting in a chair and then just dropping that chair 30 feet. And your butt is sitting in it. That is a hard landing. This guy has broken a lot of bones. I mean, okay, now I'm just gonna get this off. I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. Yes. The cars he's jumping are real 69, 70, 68 Dodge Chargers. They are real cars. So a lot of people give him crap for doing that. But the cars he jumps are legit crap. I mean, everything on that car is bondoed, chicken wire, duct taped, square tubing frame rails. I mean, these cars are junk. The guy is a Dodge Charger nut himself, so he's not going to take a Charger that is buildable and destroy it. He's taking the Chargers that we're going to go to the scrap heap. We're going to get recycled, turned into refrigerators, soda cans, whatever. That guy takes these cars, and they plaster them with Bondo, sheet metal. They put square tubing frame rails on them because there are no frame rails left. I mean, this guy makes a General Lee look like a legit car from about 50 feet away. I mean, it has tail lights in it for stickers, or it has stickers in it for tail lights. It has stickers in it for a grill. It is junk. So, okay, now that I got that out of the way, that this guy does not jump good cars. He actually jumps junk cars. But nowadays, even finding junk Chargers is getting harder. So what he's actually started doing is taking Crown Vics and converting them to General Lease. But that's a later thing for him. He's got videos on that, I'm sure. But what I'm talking about here is this piece of crap. This is actually Raymond's personal General Lee. He's had this car since he was, I think he said 18. Don't quote me on that, because I know he's going to see this. So I think he's had this car since he was 18, bought it, and of course, always had the dream of having a General Lee, and then this crazy nut takes it one step farther and actually jumps him. But this is an Ohio car. Actually, I think it came from North Carolina is what he said. And he had somebody do some body work to this car back when he was young. And it's crap. And back then, of course, they probably didn't make as many panels, but it had had a bunch of shabby body work done to it. I mean, look at the Bondo in the trunk gutter. I didn't do this. John did. So, or Raymond, I'm sorry. Raymond, I said John because he always pronounces his name. I say Kohn, and he's like, no, it's Kohn, like John. And I'm like, oh, okay. So every time I think of him now, I just think of John. So, anyway, Raymond Kohn. Yes. So the guy that did the bodywork last on this car just like completely filled the trunk gutters with Bondo. The sail panels, we've got little patches here and there everywhere. We're actually going to pull this roof skin off because he wants to save the roof skin and hang it on his barn with the rest of the roof skins. Okay. Let me just start and tell you what we are replacing. So we're going to be replacing the cowl. We're going to be replacing the right front frame rail, or at least sectioning it, because I think the front half is rusty. Actually, I know it's rusty. Roof skin. We're going to be patching some of the lower cowl. We're going to be putting rockers, inner rockers, floor pan. He got rear floors, but those rear floors are fine. I wouldn't really worry about that. We're going to be putting the middle floor in it. Door jambs. Quarter panels, obviously. Rear window filler panel. Trunk pan. Trunk extensions. Rear cross rail, because this one is junk. And then we're going to be putting outer wheelhouses. And then we're going to be putting... Oh, what else are we going to be putting on this thing? Man, I forgot. But I have piles of new metal for this thing. So, oh yeah, tail panel, rear valance, valance corners, all that other stuff too. But this, by the time I get this car cut apart, and I'm not going to video a whole lot cutting apart, so I'm doing this right now, is all I'm going to be doing is, here's my friend right here. It's going to turn metal into butter. We're going to be plasma cutting a lot of the excess metal off of this car just to make it easier, so I get in there and spot weld cut and just get to the panels that we are going to save. So I'm just going to kind of time lapse this deal, because I wouldn't want to sit and watch a whole car be torn apart piece by piece by piece by piece. It's faster. It's better just to watch it go boom, done. So once this car is all cut apart, then I'm going to be putting it on the jig, and we're going to be bracing it all up. Or actually, no. It's going to be put on the jig before we get it all cut up. Sorry. And then, which I shall show you. I have a frame jig over here. I just used it on this car. This is actually a... what kind of engine do you think is under here? Oh! Yeah! It's got a Hell Kitty in it with a 6-speed. So yes, I just got done doing this car. I had it on the jig, took it off because it don't need to be on the jig no more. So Raymond's car is going on this jig right here. So we're gonna get all the suspension off of Raymond's car. I just got the we just pulled the rear axle out of it and pull all the front suspension out of it. And since I figure I had a little bit of time tonight, I'm just gonna go ahead and start cutting some of the excess metal off of it, just kind of get that out of the way. And then once I get it on the jig and we get it all cut apart, like completely cut apart, I'm going to be bracing what's left of the car up, and then it's going to go down to blasting. Once it gets back from blasting, I'm going to epoxy the whole thing, and then we're going to start slinging all some new metal on it. So back to Raymond's car over here. All right. I don't even know where I'm going to start with this thing. I think I'll just start cutting what's left of the sail panels, the rear window filler, the quarter, probably cut the rear cross rail off, and all this stuff doesn't really matter because it's all going to be put on the jig anyway. So when I get, and I know this car isn't straight right now, just by tape measure I know it's not straight. So when I get it on the jig, I'll be able to tweak, get everything straight, ready, and all that stuff. So yeah, it's time to plasma. Day 2 on tearing the old General down, and I realized I get a lot of questions on how I strip the cars apart. Do you, like somebody saw a picture of the plasma cutter on Instagram, they're like, do you just plasma cutter the cars apart and just plasma through the spot welds? No. There's things that, when tearing a car apart, it really all depends on what you're saving and what you're not saving. Like for instance, like I'm saving this panel here because there's nothing wrong with it. You'll see I drilled here, and then up here I used a 3-inch, oh, where's it at? Oh, there it is. Okay. So 3-inch grinder with a cutoff wheel on it, but it's a thick cutoff wheel, and I use it to get spot welds. I'll just kind of like and cut through the spot weld. That way I know what I'm cutting through, I can see what I'm cutting through, and sometimes these spot welds, they're not exactly, let go of me. Sometimes they're not exactly a perfect circle. Sometimes they're oblong, or there's 2 spot welds immediately next to each other. So sometimes it's nice just to get in with a grinder and be able to massage what you're cutting off. Now, the reason I drilled straight through the rear window filler panel on this is because now when I hammer dolly this all straight out again, I'll just be able to weld from the bottom side. So I'll weld from the bottom to the filler panel, so that way from the top side it looks like factory spot welds. And like for instance right here, I just drill straight through these because then I can use these holes to weld back to the panel. Same thing here. I'll weld from the bottom side to the rear window filler panel. Now the frame rails I don't drill through. Someone else had put a trunk pan in this you can see by the ugly booger welds that they attempted to weld with. They did a terrible job on the trunk pan of this thing. I mean, there's welds on the sides, like there's a booger here. I mean, just terrible job. And there's not even any welds in here. No welds. So whoever did the trunk pan on this thing last did a terrible job. And anyways, so what I usually use here is, if it's an easy spot weld, I'll just use a spot weld cutter, which is right here. What I'll do is I'll start with a 3/16 drill bit, and I'll just kind of go halfway through it, and then I'll follow up with the spot weld cutter, because the bit that's on this is spring loaded. You can see it. So it likes to walk around a lot. So if you start with a regular drill bit just to center, use this as a centering pin, then it works good. No, it all depends on what you're saving. Like, okay, when I pull the rear cross rail off, okay, I don't want to damage the frame rails behind it, so I just used my 3-inch grinder disc and just whizzed through it real quick. See, what I'm working on right now, removing, is the drip rails. These drip rails, I start with a 3/16 drill bit, and then I'll go back through it with a 1/4 inch or 5/16, whatever it's going to take to complete. Probably a 1/4 inch on these because those are small spot welds. But the reason I just drill through this is because when I remove the drip rail and put the next one on, or the new one on, then I could just use these holes that I had drilled to weld to. So I just plug weld all those holes that I had drilled. So it works out great. So from the outside, right here, all you will see is what looks like a factory spot weld, because when the weld cools, it shrinks. And then right here, same thing. I just drilled straight through this because now I can weld from the inside to the door jamb, and it'll look like a factory spot weld from the outside. The rocker's got to get replaced, so I really did not care at all about damaging the rocker. So I just I plasma cut around the rocker, around the bottom of the door jamb, just to remove it. Don't care, don't want to waste any time drilling spot welds that are going to have to get removed anyway. So if you're like, actually the perfect example, like I said, if you're removing the door jamb, let me see, Tom. There's no reason to drill all those spot welds out right here along the side if you're going to have to replace the rocker as well. So just plasma the thing out. Done. You're going to replace both of them anyway. The roof skin. So I just did my 3-inch whizzy wheel here because a lot of this panel, somebody had done a bunch of work to this before and did some hack job work. So they had pieces on top of pieces and booger welds on top of booger welds, but the metal that was here, part of the original roof structure, was all good. There was no need to replace this. Now this is all rotted here, so I'll have to remove all that. Now some guys will probably be like, oh, you can't cut a car apart on jack stands. Now it's all going to twist and distort and flex and all that. And look at these frame rails, they're flimsy flyers. And yeah, I don't care. Because the car is going to get, as soon as I get done cutting the cowl out and get the other charger out of the way, this is going to go on the B-body frame jig I have. So this car wasn't straight to begin with, but once I put it on the jig, I can manipulate, stretch, pull, zigzag, whatever, and then I'll lock it down, you know, because I can bolt the car to the jig. So once I get it all squared up and everything, then I'll go ahead and brace it up. I'll run some bracing down, I'll probably have to X from this door jamb to like the roof structure or where package tray, whatever, because both rockers are going away, the floor pans are going away, so there'll be a whole lot of metal that will be cut out of this car. So yeah, once I get it all jigged up, I'll brace it, and then it goes to blasting. When it comes back from blasting, I'll bolt it back to the jig, cut all my bracing out of it, and that's when I can start putting all new metal on it. And that's where I'm at right now. I still got to cut this guy out. I still got to cut the other one out. Remove the cowl. This frame rail here is rusty right there. You can see that. I got to pull this rocker off. The rear floor out. And I think that's it. It's not like there's a whole lot more to cut off. I mean, there is, but... Alright. Well, back to work. Another day carefully dissecting Raymond's 69 Charger. Got the rocker off yesterday, which rockers are always a pain in the butt when you're doing them right. Anyway, replacing an entire rocker, pain in the butt. Also had some additional cancer here that I'm gonna have to patch in. It's like a ghost door jamb. So I'm gonna have to replace some rust that was there, so I just cut it all out and I'll just make it from scratch later. The inner rocker on this car is nothing wrong with it, so we're leaving that. It's got some flaking over there, but it's not actual like rot, that's just flakes. Getting ready to get the floor out, and what I'm doing here is I'm actually drilling and grinding the spot welds. But what I'm also doing is I'm plasma cutting sections of the floor out, so that way I can get underneath it and kind of chisel away at the spot welds. Because it's kind of hard to chisel away at stuff when you can't exactly get the chisel in there. So, and that's what I'm doing right now. Once I get this side of the floor all done, then I'm going to slide the whole car from there to there. That way I can do the other side. So, I'm going to go ahead and continue on with this. I know the floor looks good, but it's really not, because a lot of it's fiberglass. Like this whole section right here is just fiberglass. And then we got some scaling, and we got holes here, holes over there. You can see holes over there. Same thing, fiberglass over there. So, cut her out. And he's got a whole nother floor to replace it. Might as well use it. All right, to it.